For joining us for our second webinar session for heads of schools and school counselors. My name is Matthew Auku, a senior admission officer from Academic City University College. Today we are discussing the topic 2020 WASSCE, matters arising, and the way forward. I mean, this year WASSCE has gone through a lot of phases. COVID students being called back to stay home for some time, going through all those anxieties of trying to navigate their way. You prepare so well for exams and they are told exam is not coming off, wait until further notice. So all these anxieties have really, one way or the other, affected students in how they prepare towards their exams. So this afternoon, we are going to have a very interesting discussion. We are going to discuss some of the fallout of this year's WASSCE, and we discuss some of the way forward we can, measures we can put in place to avert possible occurrence in the future. And to do this discussion, I have with me Ms. Maclean Akwe, a teacher and a counselor from PRESEC, and I have Mr. Seth Kujo, who is the head of student learning from Legacy Girls. So ladies and gentlemen, a lady and a gentleman, you are very welcome.
Thank you.
Good. So from let me kickstart this. Seth, what is the expectation? How do you see this topic? I mean, going forward with this discussion.
Well, it's an interesting thing to look at because we've never had a disruptive year like this before, where students are preparing for an exam and all of a sudden we have a virus or a pandemic setting in, and you are told go home, not knowing when you are coming to write, after preparing adequately and just waiting for 2 weeks to start your exam. It has not been easy for students. And as education managers, it has not been easy for us at all. So
all right, thank you. That's very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting from your side, Seth. Maclean, is it different from PRESEC Legon, or those are the shocks, so they are not really down or moved by the shocks in the system anyway?
Thank you. It's not different from PRESEC. Preparing to write exams, we know students normally put in their all. It's stressful. So getting very close that you have to go with this pandemic, we don't even know what it is, how it's going to be. And when they were at home, at a point, they don't even know when they are coming back. So with all this threat, it has not been easy. And they coming back, being there with the COVID, and then through, it's also another thing. So it has not been easy, but by the grace of God, we've been able to go through.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a very interesting point from Seth and Maclean. All right, I would want to remind us, all of us, that we are live on our Facebook platforms, and we would like those who want to join us leave their comments and also their suggestion on the topic. I'll read them out for my able panelists to discuss and come up with the answers or their concerns. Participants, you are very welcome. Please, we are about starting, so please, or we have started already. So leave your comments in the Q&A section. We'll read them to our panelists to digest them for all of us to benefit fully. Thank you. Now, I would want us to start this very discussion with some of the fallout or some of the issues around this year's WASSCE, and how students prepared so well, went into the exams, and when they got there, it's like they had some reliable sources of what is coming in and what is not coming and all that. Prepared so well, and just for them to meet the question, and it's really different. Now, I want us to watch some snippets of videos that I collected so that it will help us in our discussion. So those joining us from other parts of outside Ghana can also appreciate the issues in Ghana and contribute same. So I want us to watch this video briefly. Then I'll comment, or I'll allow my panel members to comment on this. All right, so this is Norbert from the just ended WASSCE, and you realize that students had gone into the exams, and because they didn't meet the expectations, they have to resort to all forms of violence or all sort of indiscipline, where they have to vandalize school properties. So please, from your point of view, how was the situation different from your end? I mean, said Legacy Girls.
You know, we are a private school, so fortunately for us, though there was COVID, when we went on the break in March, we were able to keep our girls online because we had the resources. So they were online and teachers were taking them through revision. So fortunately for us, yes, we were able to prepare them adequately for the exam. So we didn't experience anything like this. And I believe it's just because of the level of preparation we took our girls through. They were online since March when they went home until they came back to school in July. So we didn't experience anything like this. Good to us because we were online and adequately preparing them. But it's just an unfortunate situation we saw in some of the public schools who students had to demonstrate because they felt that the questions that came were beyond them, believing that, well, because it was COVID, questions have to be very lax so they can just get their way and get the grades they want. But it can't be what they want. And it's unfortunate such a thing happened. So at my end, we didn't experience anything like this.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So, I mean, puts us as students, required or supposed to resort to some form of these activities in order to get their grievances to the right quarters.
I don't think this is the best means of expressing their grievances. But taking a look at it from another angle, these particular papers where they demonstrated, the student believed that government gave them some materials to learn to prepare for the exam, and they went to the exam and the material they were given, nothing appeared from the material. So they felt this was the best way of reacting to show their disapproval of what happened. But
all right, that's
this
brilliant.
is not the best means to communicate their grievance.
Brilliant, brilliant from Seth. Marklina, how different was the situation at your end?
Thank you. So at our end, we also did not have any issue on students demonstrating, or we didn't have any issue. And I would say it's because, one, they were prepared, and we also helped them to understand the use of past questions. We know past questions have been there for years, and normally we even advise students to go over them because, one, it helps them to know the structure of the questions. It also helps them to be able to prepare, revise, because if you pick a question paper, you see questions from first year, second year, third year. So when you are using them in revising, it helps you also. So they being encouraged to use past questions and being given past questions, I think it's in the right direction. But for them to expect that they are going to get the same thing as questions, I beg to differ. I don't know why a student should think that what an exam that you are going to write, you expect that you have the questions before you go. Then what do we call that? So for me, I beg to differ on that. It is to prepare them so that they will be able to prepare and face their exams adequately. So we do not have those things.
Thank you, Marklina, for that brilliant point. I have another video which also came out as a result of a head teacher who had to, tell students to leave the exam center because there were allegations of some sort of, strict invigilation at the center and all that. So I want us to also pay attention to if teachers are really behind the activities or the student going all the way to vandalize school properties, because strict examination or invigilators were really strict on them, and they didn't even know what to do. They couldn't even communicate to their friends, and they appreciate that there was true, social distance protocol. That was what was really observed. They thought was supposed to be among the community, but in the exam center, you could see about a student sitting behind a colleague over 1 meter or 2 meters away, which is really, really too much for them. So let's look at this video where the head teacher was also telling students to leave. And this is a report from MX24. All right, so in this very video, a headmaster, based on the report that the headmaster had asked the student to leave the exam, and this actually happened in Kukrantumi in the eastern region, and the school's name is Bright Senior High, just to set the record straight. So this actually happened. So I want to find out from your end if headmasters have the right, to set out to, instigate their students to either riot or fight invigilators because they are giving strict supervision in the exams. Macleana, please, can you start and give your thought on this one?
Thank you. I don't think headmasters have that right. These students are students that we are training them to know how to handle issues or challenges using the proper channels. So if a headmaster who is a role model that these students are looking up to will give such instructions and instigate his students to do that, then it means that you are teaching them to look out for instant justice. And we know when people are out there for instant justice, we know what it turns out.
Oh. We are breaking. Okay, hello.
So it is very.
Okay, we can hear you now. Macleana, go ahead, please. We can hear you.
So I was saying that a head teacher who happens to be a role model for these students and they are looking up to him, I'm sure this head teacher has taught these students with his teachers that when there is an issue, you go through the proper channel. So when there is an issue, you don't react or look out for instant justice, but rather you use the appropriate channels. So it is wrong for him to instigate the students. If the way they are seated, there is a problem, you could have approached the WAEC officials or those who are in charge there so that they will agree to do something about it. But it is very wrong to go in the violence way. Very, very wrong.
Thank you, Macleana. That's very brilliant from your side. Seth, can you react briefly so that we
I would say it was a very unfortunate situation. And looking at what he was reacting to, his problem was that the examiners or supervisors widely spaced the candidates, and he felt it was wrong. So the question is, what was he expecting? So he wanted spaces to be very closer to afford the student the opportunity to cheat. And this is one of the major problems when it comes to writing examinations in a country. We have headmasters and school proprietors also playing a very critical role. They even go and pay these invigilators or collude with them to help their students cheat. Yes, because right? they need to produce results, to use the result to market their school, to get more intake. So it was a very unfortunate situation. It was a very unfortunate situation. But
All
I
right.
believe all of us have learned lessons from that, and going forward, yes, we can be able to deal with issues of this nature.
Okay, thank you very much. That is very fantastic from Seth Kujo from Legacy Girls School. Please, I would also want to remind those who just joined us that they can leave their comment in the comment section, or our panel participants here can leave their comment or questions in the Q&A section. I'll read them out for our panelists to react to them. Thank you. So let's move on quickly. Now, let's move on quickly with this. So the first question for this particular webinar, we actually want to assess the fact that COVID-19 had some level of impact on students' preparation towards this exam. However, we cannot attest to the fact that there was some level of extension for students to really prepare for their exams. There were deferred dates for the exams preparation. But at the end of the day, students went into the exams and they felt things were not really right. I mean, from your own or from your opinion, what do you think, or to what extent do you think COVID-19 actually impacted the the student preparation towards their exit exams? Marklina, please, can you take this for me?
Okay. So, in fact, the COVID-19 have really impacted on the students in both negative, let me say, in both negative and a positive way. You are coming back, and students were even thinking that what they prepared for, that they have 2-3 weeks to write, and they have to go home for some time and come back. Is it going to be the same thing? Or now WAEC is going to set new set of questions? We remember that within that time, WAEC was even, we were thinking, are we going the West Africa way, or Ghana is going to write alone, and all these issues. So it made the students really confused. When they came back, even they were preparing, some were asking, are we going to do practicals? Because some of the practicals is such a way that we may be infected with all this. So in fact, they were really confused. At the positive time, I would say, at the positive part, sorry, I would say it gave them adequate time to prepare. If you are a serious student, whilst even at home with whatever, you know you have an exam, and then it's very close. So whatever it is, when you are being called, you are going to the battlefield. So you will be preparing and preparing. One other side too, we all know learning. At a point in time, you will be fed up doing the same thing. You thought you have prepared, you were ready. Now you have to go over it, go over the same things you thought you had. But a serious student will take advantage of this and then master up what he's expecting to do. So it has two sides.
All right, thank you. That's very brilliant from Marklina Kwe, a teacher and a counselor from Presec, Legon. Seth, can you please react to this same question?
I'll also say that the pandemic impacted the student negatively when it came to preparing for the exam in another way. You know, in our part of the world, the way we bring up our students, the way we teach them, we make the lead educator the teacher. So the teacher virtually plays most of the roles. And the nature of our Ghanaian students, or the nature of our students, they usually learn under supervision. They learn very well under supervision. So going home and doing private studies is a bit difficult for the nature of students we have here in our country. So because of that, staying at home for a very long period of time, doing their personal studies, I believe it impacted them negatively because they were not able to prepare adequately for the exam. Just because at home, we have a lot of distractions at home, and they wouldn't be able to what learn like they would have done when they were in school. So the COVID affected them by taking away that sort of supervision that the school could have done if they were on campus. And as a result, affected their preparation towards the exam. This led to what we saw in the video. If they were adequately prepared, I don't think they'll be reacting the way they did when they went to the exam hall and the questions they felt they were expecting were not there. So supervision was lacking because of the COVID, and it negatively affected the students' preparation for the exam. That's the little I'll add.
Okay, thank you very much. I like the conversation so far, but I would need to remind our audience that we are discussing matters arising from the just ended WASSCE. And we are doing this discussion with my able panelist, Ms. Maclean Akwe, teacher and a counselor for Presec Legon, and Seth Kujo, who happens to be the head of students learning at Legacy Girls School. All right, so there was also an allegation of assault on some invigilators or WAEC officials, and it's all over in the news, and WAEC is ready to take up the matter, as in how students how students resorted to all these forms of violence or crime, because as invigilators or supervisors, they are just there to ensure you put out your best and make sure they provide an enabling environment for you to just give out your best in your exam. However, there were some images circulating on social media, but this is a verified and certified image. It's not one of the false information out there, where invigilators were actually beaten and they had some injuries and all that. So I want us to, in a second segment of our discussion, I want us to delve into examination malpractices and how we can help students to prepare adequately going into the future, because we all believe that the future, that the children are our future. If you are not giving them the enough preparation for them to be future ready, then it means, we are really going nowhere. And if they want to resort to all forms of, examination malpractices, and which at the end of the day, you'll be producing half-baked doctors, half-baked nurses and all that, where they will not be able to see to the needs of the people. Trust me, we might not be building the nation the way we all want it. So let's quickly discuss some of the examination malpractices that came up. We saw, leakages of exam questions all over on social media and all that. So in your view, considering the issues of examination malpractices, what measures do you think we can put in place to adequately prepare students to do well in their exam without resorting to all forms of fake papers on the media, or also what we term it APO? Do you get what we term it in our local dialect, APO? So that students can really be very independent and come up with their best. So please, in your view, what do you think we can do? Because every year, since I was born, every year there's this issue of examination malpractice. What is it that teachers are not doing to stop this habit of students resorting to all forms of examination malpractice going into the exam? So Seth Kujo, please, can you take this one quickly so that we delve into the issue?
Over the years, you notice that we've had different forms of exam malpractice, but what happened this year was particularly very unique. Over the years, we've had papers leaking, we've had collusion, we had students sending foreign materials into their classroom. But hardly do we hear invigilators are attacked like we saw in the video for not allowing students to carry out mass cheating. So it means that the level of malpractice is getting to another level. And I blame that usually on inadequate preparation on the part of students. I realize that when students or teachers are not able to finish their syllables, it means that students are not, should I say, very confident in their ability to write the exam and pass. So they have to rely on other means to ensure they get the desired grades to get to the university. And you also realize that in our part of the world, we've placed so much emphasis on paper qualification or certificates. So no matter what you have to do to get a grade, you have to resort to that. And we all know, talking about all this, we know that the level our parents also go into. We have parents going all the way to procure question papers for the awards.
Wow.
That's because they have to make their grades, yes, to get to the university at all costs. Because we all know without that certificate, getting or progressing in any career is going to be very difficult in the country we find ourselves in. So inadequate preparation on the part of the students and then the non-completion of syllables is the two major factors that I think, yes, lead to this thing we call APO in our country. So until we are able to deal with these two, prepare students adequately and make sure we complete the syllables, we are going to see a reoccurrence of this issue we are discussing today. Because it has been with us since when I was looking at the date, we have been experiencing this since the 1961s, and we are still experiencing this. So it means that something is lacking, and we have to take action before we can solve the problem or minimize it to the barest, should I say, minimum.
So in your view, what do you think we can do? What do you think we can do as educators? Because if it's from the 1960s, and I mean, trust me, we are going nowhere.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
with the advent of technology and all that, I mean, but you see, one thing is that who really brings the questions out? Do you get it? Who really brings the questions out? Because anyway, I won't go there, but I think the issue is beyond just beyond just students getting all this. There should be somebody who is facilitating this.
So you notice that APO has become, selling papers is now a very good business in the country. So really? When exams are nearing, it's cocoa season, as we say, for some people, in the should I say, examination value chain or supply chain. So they get to have access to questions and sell to students. And my investigation shows that, it starts from the setting of the questions, the printing of the questions. So that whole value chain, from setting of questions, printing questions, taking questions to the depot, and then sending the question to the exam center, that value chain is where we have the questions leaking. So until we are able to motivate the people along that value chain, we will still have this problem occurring. Because it's good business. Let's assume, yes, it's good business for some people. I hear now, if you want a paper, yes, when you pay 200 CD, a candidate, you can get a paper being sold to you. So if you have 100 students, everybody paying 200 CD, 100 times 200, that is money for the person selling the paper.
It's even more than his salary, I guess. I don't know, but
yes. So until we are able to motivate them and instill some moral discipline in them, that is not the way to go, because it affects the image of examination as a country. And when you take a certificate elsewhere, people, the value of a certificate has come down now. We are not going to get anywhere. Years back, when you are going to school in the UK, you can use your WASSCE certificate to go to level 100 straight and do 3 years. But now with your WASSCE certificate, you have to do 1 year pre-university before you continue with your 3 years.
Well,
the Germans will tell you, yes, devalue that certificate. The Germans will tell you have to do pre-U 2 years, then do a degree for 3 years with your WASSCE certificate. But years back, that was not the case. You just go straight to level 100. So until we deal with this value chain problem, we can't solve the issue about examination malpractice. That is my take.
Brilliant from Seth Kujo. That's a very powerful point from you. Marklina, please, can you add up to what Seth had put out there?
The little I can add is this APO thing. It's really becoming worse. I think it's becoming worse more, even because of technology. So because of technology, now things are happening and very fast. and students are able to get the questions. But I think one thing we can do is helping the students to have confidence in themselves.
Good.
That if I prepare well, it is not anything extraordinary. It is the same things I'm being taught, the syllables that have been given. That is where the questions are going to come from. So if students have confidence in themselves and they seek to prepare adequately, they will not look at APO. Because if what they are expecting did not come, the harm it does to them at the exam hall is worse. Imagine getting something even at the very last minute, or maybe a day to, or maybe 3-4 hours to, and that very question you have not prepared on it. How do you get this thing and go and pour them back on the paper?
Wow.
Sometimes it jumps up all that you have learned, even those you already know that questions have come on it. You find it very difficult to write them and write them well, because psychologically it affects you. So if you are able to help them get confidence in themselves that when you prepare, you can do it. And you are going to do it and do it well, they will not bother. But just as my other panelists said earlier, it's a syndicate. It's an old business on itself. So WAEC is doing whatever it can to end it. And they are also upping their game each time. So it will be very difficult. But we need to know that there is more advantages not going after it than going after it.
Good. Let me put this quickly. I mean, you realize that if this actually started in the 1960s, now what it means that some students who resorted to examination malpractices are now one way or the other, in quote, please, may also be occupying some of these positions where they think that is the way to go. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you. That is why we have people who are even fronting it, because to them that is what makes them who they are now, and they think it's real. Discuss with students, call students and talk about it, and you tell them, oh, it will disappoint you, and then they will just laugh at you. Oh, madam, you don't know. You see, so just as he said, some parents are doing whatever to let their world have it, because without a certain grade, my world will not be able to move on. So I have to do whatever possible. Meanwhile, what happens to this student when it gets to corporate world, when he even set up his own business? Will he accept somebody cheating in his own organization? So let's remember that, yes, today we are seeing it as your life, but it is something that will continue to follow you, because you don't see anything wrong with it, and you will take it to corporate world and you will be sacked, maybe.
Thank you very much, Maclean Okwe, teacher and counselor from Presec, Legon. Let me just remind our panelists that if you have any question, please leave it in there. So let me remind our participants, sorry, that if you have any question, leave it in the Q&A section. I'll read it out for our panelists to respond to it. Please, if you just join us, we are discussing WASSCE 2020, matters arising and the way forward. We want to, flush out the canker of students always resorting to examination malpractices in order to, or cheat their way through in order to make the grades and go to higher learning. But we are doing this very interesting discussion with Seth Kujo, who is the head of student learning at Legacy Girls, and Ms. Macleana Quay, a teacher and a counselor at Presec Legon. So let's move on to the third segment. So what do you think? From the discussions, what do you think are some of the sanctions we can put in place to ensure that students, who vandalize or students who resort to all forms of examination malpractices are dealt with so that it becomes a deterrent for future students or students, their juniors, so that they don't also go into school or they don't also go into the exam thinking that there's some way they can navigate their way through, or there's a shortcut they can go in order to pass their exam without even being serious from the first day of school. So I want us to brainstorm around what appropriate sanctions do you think we can, give these students who are caught, because I'm not sure these sanctions are very strong enough. Canceling your paper and asking you to rewrite where you also have access later is really, for me, is not the case. Do you think?
Yeah, so over the years, what WAEC has done is that they try to, students who are found to have cheated in exam, I know they cancel their papers, and I know some of them are also blacklisted. Won't write an exam for 2 years. They've done that. It has yielded some benefits. I remember years back, they used to publish the pictures of these students in the graphic until we had human rights advocates saying that, well, because they are young, it may affect them psychologically and so many other things like that. So I stopped. But I believe that the blacklisting of the student for some number of years and barring them from writing the exam and then withholding their grades or canceling those papers, yes, should still continue. I believe it is working. So why should also continue applying these deterrent measures to help reduce the problem of the malpractice across the country. That is the best way to cancel their papers, bar them for some years for not writing, bar them from not writing WASSCE for 2 years or a year, and it will serve as an example to others that when you do it and you are caught, you'll be dealt with. That fear, I'm sure, will help them desist from engaging in the malpractice. That is my take.
Okay, so what do you also think that what do you think students who resort to also forms of violence by vandalizing school properties, because they are leaving school, how do you hold them to it? Or there's a way, I don't know what happens in your setting, but I think there's a way you can hold them accountable for what they do.
I know, schools are able to withhold the results of students and make them pay for the properties they vandalized before their results are released to them. I know there's a mechanism at WAEC where you can place hold on the student's results. In recent times, you can just buy the scratch card and check your results online. I know you are able to place a restriction on that to make the student pay for the properties they've damaged before they are granted access to their results. So that is the best way you can have them pay for the properties they have damaged. Apart from that, it will be very difficult to hold them accountable. So withholding their results, pay for the damage, you release the results to you, is the best way to go.
All right, thank you. That is very brilliant from Seth Kujo. Please, Macleana, can you take the next reaction or your thought on this segment?
So what I will add, that in addition to what Seth have said, I think if a student in a school vandalize a property, it also has to go on his file so that in future, if he needs any recommendation or there is any verification on him, these things are there to tell what type of person he is or she is. So if I know that if I vandalize or do anything bad, tomorrow, whilst I'm a big man or a big woman somewhere, it can be proof that when I was in school, this is what I did, and it's going to affect my career. I would think twice. Because, Matthew, now, what can you do? If you say you should pay, it is only those who don't have the money who will feel the pinch. But those who can afford, it's as if nothing has happened. Is it money you want? They pay and that's off they go. You see?
Yeah.
If you say he shouldn't write for 2 years, fine. After 2 years, he writes off, he's gone, she's gone. But if we have these things on his file in addition, we will think twice that whatever actions we take, it have an impact on our lives in future. And I think it will help in a way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maclean Akwe, a teacher and a counselor from Presec Boys. All right, so let's have our next round of questions. Please, if you just join us, we are discussing matters arising from the just ended WASSCE. And we are doing this discussion with our able panelists, Seth from Legacy Girls and Macleana from Presec Legon. Our next segment is going to look at dealing with the leak. I think you have even merged this part of the question, but it's always something that happens. And I think Seth and Macleana have spoken at length on this. And I want us to also pay attention to this very important one. Our social control systems in a school where students are encouraged to, they have to follow certain norms. If those systems are not really effective, you realize that most students are going to resort to all these forms of inappropriate behaviors, which, one way or the other may affect their performance. So I want us to paint a clear picture that in going into our exams, the leak papers will be available. Those unscrupulous guys was always come with their offers. And you always get ill-prepared students who will come and buy into this. What can we do so that students can desist from all these appeals that is presented to them from these unscrupulous people on the value chain? Seth.
Okay, so I as a solution to the challenge, I've noted a 12-page solution. So first of all, I would say that, our invigilators, our supervisors, they should be given some good remuneration anytime they do their work. Until we do that, they will be tempted to take some of these little monies from students and school proprietors and all of that, so that they allow them to have access to the questions. And then also, I believe that not every school should be made a center. When you go to the government school, so far as you're a government school and you hit 100 years, and it makes it very difficult for us to get more invigilators and supervisors to go around and do some proper supervision or invigilation. So we should limit the centers. When you limit the centers and we bring students to a particular center to come and write the exam, we can have enough invigilators there to monitor them. I also noticed that, we have some of the questions leaking from the printing presses. So the best solution to that is that, when they come in, the printers, you make sure when they are leaving, you search them. And you also ensure that any paper that is left as a result of misprinting, yes, you have to shred everything. Because it is these things they bring out, they print the questions, they tell you it's a mistake. You get it? So they take these papers out without shredding them. These are ways they get the questions out from the printing centers. So we should ensure that anytime the workers are leaving, we search them to ensure they are not taking anything they are not taking anything from the printing press outside. And we should also ensure that, they don't take things like cameras to the printing press, because they use these phones or cameras to take these shots of these, questions, and they circulate them. I also noticed that, well, another important thing we can do is to reduce our emphasis on certificates and qualification, paper qualification. In our country, whether you are able to do the job, you need a certificate to prove that. That is a starting point. So until we are able to deal with that, we have these challenge recurring. And then also we should give some special welfare package for examination officials. We should motivate the WAEC officials, because research or investigation by WAEC itself has shown that most of the leakages are from what? Are from their sections. So why are these workers in WAEC leaking their papers? I'm sure it's got to do with some motivation for them. So we should motivate the exam officials so that they won't see the need to go selling papers to make some money for themselves. I also noticed that the way our society is becoming, we don't see anything wrong with engaging in any more practice. Students believe that, oh, Ghana, there is no integrity. So if I copy small, what is wrong with that? So we have to re-engineer our society altogether. We have to reorient our moral values so that children will know that cheating is wrong. No matter the form, it is wrong. So until we are able to do that, every year we have this thing recurring, this problem recurring. So re-engineering our societal moral fabric and letting people know that when you cheat, it is wrong. So until we do that, we can solve this challenge we are going through. So morals have to come in. When a student is going to cheat, it's wrong to cheat. That the child has been brought up in that manner, and the child will engage in any more practice. That is a little I have to share.
That is very brilliant from Seth Kujo. Thank you very much. Marklina, please, can you react briefly to this segment, the fourth segment?
So the little I will add is from Form 1, at the end of the semester when they are writing their exams. As a school, the school should go by the supervision. I want to use the word strict as if it's extraordinary, but supervision in the way that the students will not get a chance in cheating. If this is done and the students know that we will not get this chance, even in our end of semester exams, they would not dream about it during the WASSCE, because they know that is a bigger one and more strictness is expected during the WASSCE. All the rules, the examination rules, should be applied at the end of semester exams. At the same time, they should also be encouraged to prepare, have their confidence, and then go on with exams. Why are you writing an exam? It is at the end of the semester what you have been taught, and you are giving an account on that. So if you are there to cheat, then there is no need for you to be asked to give an account. There is no need for you even to write the exams, because bring out what you have learned out of the semester. And you are saying, I didn't learn anything, but I'm going to copy from it and give it back to you. No. So when these things are done during the internal exams, then when it gets to the external, they will not also have any problem. The rules should be applied just as the external exams. That's what I'll add to.
Thank you very much, Maclean Okwe, a teacher and a counselor for Presbyterian Boys Secondary School. Let's move on to the next segment, but I would also want to remind, I'm enjoying the conversation anyway, and I know my participants are equally enjoying it, but I want you to know that we've been discussing matters arising from the just ended WASSCE 2020 and the way forward. So if you just join us, please, you can leave your comment in the Q&A section, and I'll read it back to my able panelists to react to the question. Okay, so let me just, sorry about that image. I'll come back to it. Okay. All right, so looking at going through WASSCE core values, you realize that integrity is really one of their key core values. Now we are preparing students for the future, and this is where students have some integrity issues. So what do you think, or what advice can you give students so that they can uphold this core value that WASSCE promotes? Maclean, please.
Thank you. So integrity, it's a whole life issue. If you are not able to uphold it during your school years, it is really going to affect you when you start working, and then even your family. So it is very important for students to understand that being truthful and upholding integrity now says a lot about you. When you are writing your exams and you are able to write it without any malpractice, the confidence you have leads you into your corporate world. You start working and there are decisions that you have to make. You start working and people will depend on you. And if you don't have this quality, you realize that you will have a lot of challenges. So it is very important to know that learning and knowing, understanding and writing the exams, these are the things you are going to apply when you start working. So if you don't learn them very well, when you start working, what happens? Do you have somebody who have done the work already and you take and go and present as yours when your boss have given you work to do? When you are given a task at work, will you be able to do it consciously? You see that if you have not learned this quality, it is really going to affect you in many other things. And most people are losing their jobs. They are not being promoted because of these things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's react to some of the questions that our participants have posted in our Q&A section. One is from, or not, okay, who is this? Okay. Amadou Jello. Okay, he said students were expecting the WASSCE will lower their standard in the way they set their question due to COVID, which I feel they don't. Do you think they have been fair in this case? He said he was expecting that our student had the perception that because of COVID, exam standards are supposed to be sacrificed and thrown to the dogs. So they feel the questions should be very easy for students to navigate their way through. Please, can you react to these questions for me? Said.
You know, due to COVID, the period they were supposed to write the exam has been extended. So you should tell them that because of that long period of revision, WAEC was never going to lower the standards of the question. So I didn't know where the student had this misplaced thinking from. You
Maybe
have
sometimes
6 more months to prepare to write an exam, an additional 6 months. There's no way the examination body is going to lower the standards. Yeah. So
all right.
their thinking was really misplaced, unfortunately.
But I also think WAEC have also not been fair to this student in a way, to some extent, because you realize that Cambridge, for instance, is one of the examining body in the world. I mean, due to COVID, students didn't write exams. And these are same people who are going to sit in the same university class. And you are giving us exam, at least, why don't you lower the bar so that at least we can cross? Because people are, we are going to, I mean, we're going to have a classmate who never wrote any exams, yet they've had their way to the university. So I think to some extent, we should also look at their mode of assessment in the future so that should we have some of these uncertainties, they would be able to put in measures to at least use their cumulative records or assessment to also grade students, because you can't go to school for the whole 3 years. And just because you had 2 months or 3 months to write your exam, you didn't write, there can't be any mode of assessment for you. Do you get it? So
Yes,
I think
I agree with your point.
yeah, so I think to some extent, WAEC should look at their way of assessing students. But if not for some reasons, which I'm not able to put on record, but I think they should have just used their continuous assessment as a way of getting them into university without any stress.
That is
all right.
true.
My next question. Yes, okay, speak up. Yeah.
Yes, I was saying that WAEC collects these cumulative assessments every term. So personally, myself, I was surprised why they couldn't use the cumulative assessment, but rather instead they should write an exam. So maybe going forward, they should look at maybe some of these things they can do during situations like this. Nobody knew we could go through a situation like this. So going forward, I'm sure they will consider some of these things, learning from the Cambridge experience.
Okay, that's true. Okay, let me read this question from Ebenezer Latte. He said, how feasible is it from teachers' point of view for students to sit for the same paper but answering different questions or mix the numbering all together? So if you students to answer the same question in a randomized way, what is your point from the teacher's point of view? Marklina, can you do this for me?
So I'm not getting the question well.
He's asking if it is feasible from the teacher's point of view for students to sit for the same paper. In this case, they are sitting for the same paper, but the approach or the way the questions have been numbered is different, or it's more of a randomized format. So once somebody is seeing question 1 as maybe Kofi is a boy, true or false, you'll be seeing the same question for question 20 for Ajua. Do you get it? So you want
okay.
Yeah.
I now get this. I had that experience at the university. One of our quizzes, a lecturer did that. And it was really interesting. So it is also another way that teachers can use so that students will not depend on each other during exams. Because whilst you are asking me number 4, the question on mine is different from what you are asking for students to depend on each other. And they will not cheat. It also helps them to do diligent work. And this more practice thing will also reduce.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think this one is from Ifwa. He said, what do the panel think are the effect of COVID disruption on SHS2 students who are coming into SHS3? What do you think are the effect on next year WASSCE will look like? Because they are trying to be prospective. They are trying to see how the future is going to look like. Because the COVID situation really affected schools all over. It's not only the final year students, and they might have missed classes, especially when you're in the government school or the government setup. Even though there's a way for government is trying in a way to get students to follow some online lessons and all that. But how effective is that? Do you get it? So they want to project and find out what would be COVID-19 impact on next year's exams. Seth, please.
Okay, so
okay.
Okay. So, we have students missing 9 months of learning, 9 months of school. You can just imagine a whole 9 months staying at home. So they've missed a lot. But funnily for private schools like where I'm coming from, we've been able to engage all our students virtually. So we are made up, or we are making up for the lost time. So we're able to complete particular terms, term 2 or term 3 online. So in our case, our students haven't missed anything. But the bigger problem is with the government schools. And we also know that even with the double track system, there was a particular batch of students who didn't go to school for some time. So it's going to be really difficult. But I know, as professionals as we are going to put in place the needed or necessary measures to be able to close the gap or bridge the gap, or to cover up all the things they've lost in 9 months. Private schools, we are fine. The government schools are.
All right, brilliant from your side. Magdalena, let's take this question for me. One of our attendees asking, do you think the time they give students to read for their exams is encouraging? Oh, sorry. Do you think the time they give students to read for their exams is encouraging for their exam? I think okay. What he's trying to say is that, do you think the time is enough for students to read? The time they give students to read is enough for them to do well in the exams? And because COVID is disturbing, and in this abnormal times or normal times, it looks like WASSCE draw their questions too hard, and it is really not easy for students to, manage their way through. What do you think? Is WASSCE raising the bar, or there's a way they have to do moderation just to favor those who miss out on some lessons, or those who have some deficiency with their online setup for classroom or for learning? Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew. For me, if through to Form 3 exam in a certain way, and it gets to the time for you to get the questions, and maybe the standards are lowered, I can tell you that it will affect the students, because that is not what they are expecting. You see, so you have been preparing, and for it to be the same way, you have prepared for that, and at the end, that is the exams you are supposed to write. So I am not seeing it that WASSCE is raising the bar too much. To be very honest, we were all at a point confused as to how, because of the COVID, the exams is going to be. But WASSCE maintained that it's going to use the structure that it has always been using, which the students are expecting. So to me, I think it was okay. Students might think it should have come down, and maybe if you ask them the type of questions that they expect to be lowered, you will find out that those might even be higher questions, because in an examination, we all know you have a subject that have about 15 topics, and out of these 15 topics, maybe they are going to ask questions on 10 topics. The 5 topics might be my best topics. You see, so yeah. If they are saying those ones are the basic, therefore they will not bring it, it might also affect other people. So for me, I think because it is a structure and we have prepared for it. It's better it's followed that way.
Thank you very much,
Matthew,
Maclean Akwe.
you also
Okay,
realize
quickly,
that,
just 15 seconds, said.
yes, you notice that the nature of the examination questions this year was varied a little. You realize that WAEC this year was asking critical thinking questions. They were not asking straight textbook questions. So that's where the students found a challenge. We are going to apply knowledge, and most of them couldn't do that. So they were found wanting. Years back, WAEC would just ask you a normal textbook question, but this time around, they are asking you to apply the knowledge you acquired in the text room to solve the problem or to answer the question. So that was what WAEC did this year, and that led to the challenge we had. So it means that from the beginning, Form 1, when we are examining the student, we should start using these critical thinking questions to examine them so that they start developing these skills. So that when they go and they meet these type of questions in their exam, they wouldn't be found wanting and complaining.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much, Seth and Macleana. You've done so well. And please, we've been listening to Macleana Kwe, a teacher and a counselor from Presbyterian Boys Secondary School, Legon, and Seth Kujo from Legacy Girls International School. The topic has been discussing matters arising from the just ended WASSCE, and you've delved into various segments coming together with coming out with various forms of sanctions that can easily be applied to students to deter them from, resorting to all forms of examination malpractices. You've also gone into what really account for leakage of exam papers on the social media platform for students to solicit for them. We've also spoken at length about student vandalizing school properties. You've also spoken at length about the assault on some WAEC officials and all that. So I'm really grateful, lady and a gentleman, for this in-depth knowledge and information you've put out there for our participants to benefit from. We are really grateful. My name is Matthew Awuku, a senior admission officer from Academic City University College. Thank you very much, and I'm most grateful. Bye-bye.